Is Taylor Hendricks about to be the Jazz starting power forward on opening night? If he is, it's truly remarkable, and frankly, it's pretty close to unthinkable. It's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as YouTube. All right, today's a fun day for me. We started this about 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's become more and more important every single year. It's called the Rule of 240. You have 48 minutes. 5 players play 48 minutes a game. That's 240 minutes. What rosters actually have 240 minutes on them? This has become more and more important and harder to do with the new collective bargaining agreement, and has become a better and better indicator of who's going to have a good season and who's going to surprise us. And who, maybe most of all, it's been a very good indicator on who might really disappoint. I'll dig into why it's important as we continue in a moment, but we're starting the show today on Taylor Hendricks. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Taylor Hendricks is feels like we're about to have Taylor Hendricks as the starting power forward or starting 5 on the Jazz opening day. Now, we have one more preseason game and a whole other week, so things could change. But if, in fact, Taylor Hendricks is a starting member of the team Wednesday night against the LA Clippers, it's remarkable. It should be the biggest story of training camp, but Ace Bailey has stolen that every second of every minute. But there's no one, Will Hardy, Austin Ainge, Justin Zanuck, David Locke, Thurl Bailey, anyone who thought Taylor Hendricks would be the starting 4 on this roster. If you go back and listen to the plethora of interviews we did in our interview series, and we all started trying to guess the starting 5, I don't think anyone had Taylor Hendricks. You come off that catastrophic an injury, have not played in a year, have only played 43 NBA games in your life. It was, frankly, a little bit of a stretch for him to be a starter last year when he was starting to start the year, trying to figure it out. And he didn't start particularly well, if you recall. I believe he started all 3 games to start the year last year, but he only played 21 in that third one, obviously. So really started 2 games and wasn't it's hard to tell. He went, in the second game, he didn't score. But he has played well. He has belonged. You would never look at him for 1 second and think he's coming off a horrific injury. And I can't see who's taking the starting job from him. Now, some things opened up. I think a lot of people thought Kyle was going to be the starting 4, and he had the back problem and didn't look anywhere near ready in his first preseason game, understandably. I had Bryce Sensabaugh in that group, but it seems more and more likely that Bryce Sensabaugh needs to be coming off the bench. There's a chance that Walt Clayton or someone like that could establish themselves and we're going to slide this thing down, but right now, it feels as though when we play the LA Clippers and the Sacramento Kings in the first 2 games of the year, that Taylor Hendricks is going to be a starter, and it's incredible. So let's first give out the accolades, and then let's discuss what it means for Taylor and how we should view him. The first thing, let's give out the accolades to Taylor Hendricks. The monotony of the rehab that he went through for now nearly 12 months. It was October 28th when he got hurt. So nearly 12 months. Finally getting on the floor in Spain at the Players Association event in mid-July, and to be able to work this hard and be this confident and play like this, and he's jumping and doing all things. There's some times where he's coming down with 2 feet, and I feel like he's got to really hold his ground, and he wants a solid base And I think it'll be interesting to watch the first time he goes off 1 foot on a play near the basket. So there's still some stuff going on. Maybe he would just always do that. Frankly, we haven't seen enough of him. I don't actually have enough of Taylor Hendricks watching to have a reference point of like contrasting how he is now to then. But the fact is that this is incredible. So the first thing is, I think you've got to give awesome credit to Taylor Hendricks. Let's give, like, these guys are the unsung heroes, but Eric Phillips and the crew who are the strength and conditioning and performance staff of the Utah Jazz. Wow. Because not only is Taylor ready to play, but Taylor's considerably bigger than he was before. And so that's actually what's carrying him through. We're seeing the physical strength and plays around the basket that are just different than what we've seen out of him before. Looking at ESPN, I don't know what they have. I was looking to see they have him at 215, which I think is the same thing. Basketball Reference has 210. I haven't seen what the NBA hasn't come out with their official listings yet. I know that some teams have done it. I don't think the Jazz have, as of this point, given out their official numbers. Maybe they did right at training camp on the roster and what everyone weighed in. I know, and the reason I mention that is because Anthony Davis, they put him out at 249. They kind of showed him up for coming in overweight, and it was kind of a shot across his bow, like, we need you to be in shape, which was super funny because of the fact that they let Luka go because he was overweight. Nonetheless, we have him listed at 215 as well. I think he's bigger than that. So it's just an incredible tribute to Taylor himself and the strength conditioning. Now, what does it mean for Taylor? So my take when he got hurt, and I did a show on this, was that we really just lost 2 years of development. One was last year. Okay, that's a fact. And then my supposition was that this next year up till All-Star break would just be him trying to physically get ready. And then he, as talented and as good as he is, he was way behind just kind of on game basketball knowledge, play, things like that when you watch him. And we've seen that actually even inside of the preseason where he's gotten beat on the backdoor cuts and recognizing stuff. He's just behind. He's played 42 games. Like, that's not his 43 games. That's not his fault. That's just a fact. And so I still kind of think this is true. It's going to accelerate in that if he's starting, he's just going to get a lot more minutes than I ever thought. I mean, if he's really going to suddenly be playing 25 or 30 minutes a night, when I thought he was playing 15, that doubles the amount of time on the floor. I don't know that it accelerates. It accelerates a little bit in this. My theory was that he was going to, up till All-Star break, you just had to let him be and get out there and get comfortable and make himself. And then the second half of the season, you could do a little evaluation, but really that was his learning time. Like, second half of the season, he's healthy. He's not worried about his leg anymore. He goes out there and he plays, and he learns and he makes growth, and we see advancements, and we see him putting on it. And then it's next season where you really can finally evaluate Taylor Hendricks for the very first time in the 4th year of his NBA career, which was brutal for us. I still think that's true. I still think, unless he just continues some meteoric rise and is just kind of wowing us, I still think the mistakes and the weaknesses and the areas of lack of knowledge and the backdoor cut beats and all those kind of little things that are just time on the court and understanding, I think those still, the fact he's only played 43 games is still true. The fact he's coming off a massive injury is still true. The fact that he still needs to learn the game is still true. The fact that he's still psychologically dealing with the injury is still true. I'm not sure I think even though he could be starting, which is a remarkable accomplishment and should be the number one story of this training camp, I'm not sure it really changes the overall picture that he's coming off a catastrophic injury. He's behind the curve in games. He's behind the game in minutes, and that he's going to have, and that you're going to probably still not be able to make much of an evaluation until midway through to the end of year 4. Now, if he really does play 25 to 30 minutes a night, I don't think we should be doing a great deal of evaluating because of all the things I said, but it does mean that when you are evaluating, he's way more ready. Minutes matter. And so this is a terrific development. It should be the story of camp in the sense of just what an accomplishment is and how stunning it is. I think it's really stunning. But from a standpoint of the Jazz future development and trying to put pieces together, it's terrific. Because if he really is ready to play 25 or 30 minutes and his body can hold up, and we're not going to know for a while, right? We could get 15 games into the season and some little nagging injuries and ailments and body mechanics. I mean, they've done a lot of work to make sure. I mean, they worked with him. Boy, I can remember watching Isaiah Wright with it. He's jumping one stair at a time on one leg, just trying to get him. They've done a lot of things with body movement to make sure that he's right. But there's a chance we get out there, he's running, things are a little different. The hips get sore, something else gets sore. There's a lot of things that could still happen in this process. So there's a lot of time. So I think that's, getting to All-Star break healthy is probably the number one story. And then from there, you can start it. But it's great. It's good for the Jazz development. I don't think it accelerates things massively, but it's a massive accomplishment. Good for Taylor. Good for the strength and conditioning staff. Good for the organization. The rule of 240. Houston, we have a problem. Next on Locked On Jazz. Wednesday edition of Locked On Jazz brought to you by our good friends over at Intercap Lending. That's Steve Carter and Intercap. They are our own personal loan officers. Intercap has been with us for 7 years now, and there's nothing that I feel better about than telling you about Intercap because I use Steve. Our CFO of Locked On uses Steve. Our director of operations uses Steve. And then the multitude of Locked On listeners that have used Steve over the years, every single time with the same report. Holy smokes, this guy's the most incredible customer service person I've ever dealt with. You bet. And that's why everydayers, we have Steve Carter for you. Intercap Lending, mortgage company that's shaking things up by making home loans accessible, straightforward, and personal. Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, exploring options as a veteran, Intercap is here to guide you. Underwriting times are still 24 hours, and most banks can be 4 to 7 days to get decisions to an underwriter, but not Intercap because they're still servicing roughly 60% of their own loans. They're simplifying the journey to home ownership. If you're ready to make the move, or even if you're starting to explore, give them a look. They're here for you. They're supportive. They're informed. They're confident every step of the way. And Steve Carter is the best. I just got an email literally as I was doing this from Steve Carter. What did it say? Oh, great. Super. So if you are looking to get a mortgage right now, Steve Carter's the answer. Here's what SR said. Steve is the best in the business. I don't think we would have had our home if it was not for him. He answered his phone and responded to text so fast. I feel like I was his only client. Sometimes was critical information needed for writing offers, etc. And he saved the day by being there for us. I wish everyone I ever had to buy anything from had the commitment to customer service that Steve has. That is the essence of Steve Carter. That's why he's Locked On Zone personal loan officer. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com so we can get you the VIP treatment you deserve as a Locked On every dayer. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. That's your own personal own personal CFO to help you go get your loans. That's right. If you don't have a full picture of your economic situation or your finances, then guess what? You're probably leaving money on the table, and you're probably leaving experiences and opportunity on the table as well. It's all in one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you're put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart characterizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It's all at monarchmoney.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA in your browser, get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. And thank you for being an everydayer and making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, the rule of 240. 240 minutes is 48 minutes, 5 different positions in the NBA. We started this many years ago. We always did it to see who was the deepest team in the league. And it did turn out over the years that those teams that had 240 were in really good shape. And then sometimes there were actually cases where teams had too many minutes and you're like, they're going to have a problem there. That's more with our possession thing. We'll do that next week in the preview shows, Monday and Tuesday, when we look at, we'll look at kind of our points gained, offensive metrics, and possession usage and see how that works. So some of these can go both ways, right? So right now it's going to be a positive to be 240 plus, but then if we end up with some teams that have too many possessions, we'll back off and we'll have it in our projections. Here's the basic concept here. To be a great team for 82 games, you have to have 240 minutes of roster time. And if you don't, you'll get exposed on a nightly basis, and sometimes you'll be exposed. In the playoffs, you get even more exposed. If you don't have 240, you're in serious trouble. The last piece of this puzzle that's worth understanding is, let's say that a team has 230 minutes of NBA rotation players. So this is how I do this. I go through every roster and basically, are you an established NBA rotation player, and how many minutes do you project to play? And you put them in, and they go to 240. Okay. So that's how you do it. Let me just put a few caveats on there. There's a lot of information here. I'm probably getting you confused. I probably should start all over. I smiled. Rookies are 0, except for Cooper Flagg. He's getting a 30. He's going to play 30 minutes. I think he's going to be viable. Everyone else gets a 0. Most second-year players get a 0. Risha Shea does not get a 0 this year. Jalen Wells does not get a 0 this year. I think I gave Alex Sarr maybe, but maybe not. And that's about it. They have to approve and establish themselves in rotation. But that was a particularly bad draft class. Okay. So it's established rotation. We're not projecting. The word on Memphis's coward is that he's going to be terrific. I'm not projecting. If you have a rookie that steps up, which almost never happens, you can exceed this pretty quick. Some numbers. Okay. So that's the methodology. Literally going through the rotation roster. How many guys are viable NBA rotation players? At what's their average minutes? Boom, plug it in. See how many minutes the roster has. Here's why it's important. Let's say you're at 230, so you're short 10, and you have an injury, which inevitably happens, right? The average NBA player plays 70 games. If you have a rotation of 10 players, that means that you have every player's averaging missing 10 games. You're going to be missing 1.5 players a night. That's the chances. So if you're at 230 or 220 or 210, let's go with 210, and suddenly you're missing a player and a half, 40 minutes, let's call it. You only have 170 viable NBA minutes that night. You lose. Okay? That's where this becomes important. So let's take a look at it. And we'll look at the Western Conference. I wonder if I can share. I did not do it in a way that's very shareable to you. So we'll start with the Western Conference. The team with the most minutes. There's 2 teams that peak out. There's 2 teams that are over 275. Okay. So they have 35 extra minutes. They have an injury. They got players. Are the LA Clippers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're both over 270 minutes. They have depth available. The Clippers is obviously old, but it's still pretty real. And I'm not sure we should be discounting. I think the Clippers, there's 2 teams that thus far, in my analysis, I think are going to far exceed the expectations on the season. The Clippers are one of them. I'll get to the next one's next on 240. Clippers, James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, Zubac starting with Chris Paul, Chris Dunn, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Nicholas Batum, Brook Lopez, and Derek Jones. 11 established rotation players in the NBA. The Thunder, I probably don't even need to tell you, and it makes me sick, so why would I want to, are obviously loaded. They haven't changed a thing on their roster. Shea, Dort, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, Keeson Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso, Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams, all Kendrick Williams, all there. Plus, I'd almost say that AJ Mitchell is close, but he's a second-year player. I didn't give it to him. And Nikola Kopic is a rookie, does not get minutes. Okay. Number 3 on the list is the Dallas Mavericks. The second team that I think will be far better than anyone realizes right now. I think the hangover, the Luka trade, has everybody thinking that they're going to be terrible. I think they're going to be a top 5 defensive team in the NBA, if not a top 3. And they have 200. Their roster right now gives them 265 minutes. Some of them aren't great. D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson are both getting old, but Cooper Flagg, Anthony, and I gave Cooper Flagg 30. Okay, so that's Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Caleb Martin, Najee Marshall, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and Max Christie. Backup point guard, and point guard's a problem, but that's what we saw a little bit of importance the other night was that Cooper Flagg played that. And that's without Kyrie Irving. So if they ever get Kyrie Irving back, there. I will tell you, I really think you have to be 240 to be a title contender. Which gets to our only two more teams in the Western Conference have 240. One is a surprise, and the other is a title contender. The Denver Nuggets are, unlike last year when they came in at about 210, are at 255. Denver is a legitimate title contender. Denver, we probably could start talking about Denver as a favorite in the Western Conference a little bit. I know Oklahoma City's unbelievable, but the fact is that Denver has answered the problem they had last year. 36 for Jamal Murray minutes, 34 for Christian Brown, 32 for Cam Johnson, 30 for Aaron Gordon, 32 Nikola Jokic, 25 Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr. 20, 15 for Julian Strawther, Jonas Valanciunas is viable center at 12, and 15 for Peyton Watson. It's 10-man rotation. Zeke Naji, I don't count. Kessler Edwards has played some in the NBA. Is floating around that roster. We'll see what happens with him. Hunter Tyson, Elon Pickett have both played, but they're not established. They still have it. The fourth team that has it is the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm not counting Dylan Harper, which will turn out to probably be a mistake, but I'm staying consistent with the system. I mean, Cooper Flagg, I just think is different. San Antonio, and the only one I am giving Stephen Castle minutes here. He was the rookie of the year. He had a pretty good year. So that's a little bit of a question mark because he shot it so badly. But De'Aaron Fox at 34 minutes, Stephen Castle at 27, Devin Vassell at 31, Harrison Barnes at 27, Victor Wembanyama at 33, Keldon Johnson at 24, Jeremy Shohan at 24, Kelly Olynyk at 15, Julian Champagnie at 24, maybe a stretch, but I kind of like him, and Luke Cornett at 10. I don't think Luke Cornett is a stretch. I think he's established himself as a rotation player. Gets them to 248, and I don't have Dylan Harper in there. San Antonio may turn out to be way better than anyone realizes. They've got some real problems. That roster doesn't totally fit together, but that's a lot of players. So the top five in the West, Clippers, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Denver, and San Antonio all have 240. The next team is super surprising, and there's two or three teams that might have a real problem. We'll touch on it next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends at Game Time. I got to tell you, the amount of time I use Game Time this year on concerts and events and things like that, pretty regularly this summer, I was all over Game Time. Well, basketball season is officially here. Nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. So let's be real. And hockey season's here. Getting tickets can be a total headache, but waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump. Nope, it's gone. It's all out. When you use Game Time, you don't have to deal with any of that. And frankly, what I found myself, there was it was Train and Red Butte. Train and somebody, Edwin McCain. Tickets dropped right before the event. Got those. Bottom tickets on Game Time for the Nebraska Michigan State game when I was in Lincoln last week. There's where Game Time comes in. The app gives you the advantage, gives you your ultimate life hack for amazing NBA tickets, fast, stress-free, all there for you. Whether you're going to a hockey game at Delta Center, you're going to an NBA game, Game Time is there for you. The seats are there. The zone deals are game changers. You can even get tickets under $25 for certain games. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. It's all with Game Time. Today's show also brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Number one sports book, the official sports book of Locked On. It is FanDuel here for you. getting you out there, having fun, enjoying the games, and getting a little bit more into the action than you've been otherwise with FanDuel. Right now, all the NFL games are up on the board, and if you make and college games, if you make a $5 bet and you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets across the app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. FanDuel, the number one sports book, and out there for you. Games coming up this week, by the way. NFL game, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati's the Thursday night game. And the Steelers in the Icy Hot Bowl are a 5.5-point favorite. Sunday, Rams are a 3-point favorite over Jacksonville. The Seahawks, what are my Hawks doing this week? Are they off? Do they have a bye this week? Looks like they might have a bye. The Hawks might have a bye this week. I don't see them on the board for anything, finally getting a little break. And Toronto Mariners tonight. Cal Raleigh, Vladimir Guerrero to hit home runs. Other guys get hits, have a fun little parlay. They've got a wager up there right now made for you. If you bet 10, you win $300. All at FanDuel.com. Where am I on my screen? There I am. We got some teams that might have a problem. Let's dig into them. The 5 teams we've talked about: Clippers, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Denver, San Antonio. Sacramento is surprisingly high. They're at 229, but it's worth noting they're doing this with 7 players. Sacramento has 7 established rotation players who can all play 30 minutes a night. And then it's really thin after that. So they're at 229, but they lose 1 player. They lose 30 minutes. They lose 2 players. They're going to fall fast. Golden State is at 227. Off by a little, not a lot, but off by a little. I'm not sure I'd panic about it, but they are older, and at 227, again, we talk about that you're starting to slip. And I don't have DeAnthony Melton coming off an injury on that list, so that would be the one thing that would possibly give them some extra bonus minutes if they can get him off the ACL to actually give them something. But Curry was and then Buddy Hield's got to give them something, and that's always a little bit of a mix. 32 for Curry, 25 for Hield, 32 for Butler, 30 for Draymond, 25 for Al Horford might be a stretch, and they don't have a backup center. Gary Payton, Podziemski, Moody, and Kuminga, all established rotation players for the Warriors. Payton only getting 10 minutes of time, though, and then after that, they're pretty thin. The Lakers come in next. This gets interesting to think about the beginning of the season. The Lakers are only at 225. And they don't have LeBron to open the season early. So they're going to be under 200 minutes of viable NBA rotation players. Luka's at 35, Austin Reeves 35, LeBron 35, Rui Hachimura 30, DeAndre Ayton 25. And then it's kind of a stretch, frankly. Gabe Vincent gets 20. Jared Vanderbilt gets 15, which I actually think is a little questionable. I gave Marcus Smart 15, which I think is probably questionable. And then Dalton Connect's not established. Jackson Hayes, I gave him 15. I'm not sure he deserves it. Jake LaRavia. And then the rest of their roster are not NBA rotation players. And they're at 225. They really might be at 210. If you decide that Jake LaRavia or Jackson Hayes are not NBA rotation players, which I don't think is a stretch, they're at 210, and then they're without LeBron's 35. They're at 180 to start the season. That means they're playing 33% of their minutes to start the year with non-NBA rotation players. That is not great for the Lakers. There's a lot of people that are down on Minnesota, 2-time Western Conference finalists, but here's the issue. Mike Conley at 25 minutes, and that could be a stretch at 39 years old. Anthony Edwards, 36. Jalen McDaniels, 32. Julius Randle, 32. Rudy Gobert, 33. Dante DiVincenzo, 26. Naz Reid, 28. And then, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Does Jalen Clark get 10? Because that has them at 212. They need Rob Dillingham to come through really badly. They need Jalen Clark or Terrence Shannon to come through really badly. But I have Minnesota at 212 with a 39-year-old Mike Conley getting you 25 of those minutes. There's really good reports on Johan Berenger, their young fourth center, but I just don't think he plays because those are Julius Randle, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert minutes. There's a huge gap here. Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd may turn out to be the two most important people in the Western Conference this year. But Minnesota is at 212 with Mike Conley. If Mike Conley goes down, they're at 180 also. They're also playing 33% of their minutes as non-rotation players. The Memphis Grizzlies, who are already crippled with injuries, Ja Morant 30, Caldwell Pope 25, Jalen Williams 25, Jaren Jackson 30, probably could give him 33, but he gets in foul trouble. Zach Edey injured 22, Santi Aldama 20, Ty Jerome 20, Scottie Pippen Jr. 20, John Konchar 10, Brandon Clark, who's injured 15. That gets them to 217. Brandon Clark might be a stretch because I don't know when he plays again. Jock Landell's on that roster, maybe. Give him some. I don't think so. They got a lot of young players, Vince Williams, G.G. Jackson, Omax Prosper, who maybe, and the word on Cedric Coward is he's really good. So they'll play a lot of guys. They'll probably be able to fill these gaps. But without Zach Edey, without Jaren Jackson to start, they're starting the year at 160. Here's the real story. Here's the real story of the 240 this year. The Houston Rockets come in at 204 minutes. They literally do not have a point guard minute on their roster with Fred VanVleet out. 32 minutes for Amon Thompson, 35 for Kevin Durant, 30 for Jabari Smith, 32 for Alperen Sengun, 25 for Tari Eason, 20 for Steven Adams. That's a stretch because that's 52 minutes at center, but that's assuming they both. Clint Capella's on the roster. Don't know that he can still totally play. Dorian Finney-Smith is out, but we'll give him 15. If you count Clint Capella, they have 204 out of 240. Houston is short 25% of their minutes. Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepherd have to give them something. Have to. I don't think that Aaron Holiday is a established rotation player in the NBA. Maybe that's too harsh. You can decide that yourself. I just think he bounces around. He's a really good player. He plays a few minutes. That's it. Okay, bottom of the pack. Portland comes in at 203. Phoenix comes in at 191. New Orleans comes in at 160. And the Jazz come in at 158 with Niang and Anderson getting minutes that probably don't parlay into minutes. So that's the bottom of the pack. Not surprising. Portland, Phoenix, New Orleans. No big surprise there. 200, 191, 160, 158. New Orleans, it's going to be ugly. The story here, though, unquestionably, is Houston at 203 with Clint Capella on the list. And Minnesota and the Lakers are in dangerous, dangerous territory. Frankly, Golden State's right there. Minnesota more dangerous than the Lakers or Golden State. And in regards to title contenders, Clippers, Oklahoma City, and Denver. Dallas, if Kyrie comes back, has an abundance of minutes, and San Antonio should be better than anyone thinks. That is your Western Conference 240. We will do an Eastern Conference 240 tomorrow. It is Locked on Jazz. Thanks very much for tuning in. We now send you over to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked on NBA Plus. Check out Locked on NBA. Game night is back, plus Wes, Hayes, and Matt.